people in it.
Oh my God, there's so many people in it. Yeah, camp's over.
Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today's video is going to be on the absolutely devastating Texas flash flood that happened approximately 4 hours from my house. As I'm speaking and making this video, my search and rescue team, Premier Search and Rescue, is being deployed out to that area to assist in the recovery efforts, along with Melody Wright, who is going to help articulate what's going on the ground, as I will also be there within about 48 hours of this video. Now, today's video, we're going to go into the stats on what exactly happened with the Guadalupe River flooding, being that it raised about 26 feet in 2 hours. So we're going to go over all of the stats, the location. We're going to watch several videos that showing you guys that the damage is extremely similar to Hurricane Helene. And then we're also going to go into who's missing. We're going to take a look at Camp Mystic. We're going to see the children that are missing there. We're also going to go into the weather reporting system and ask questions like, did those people have enough time to evacuate? We're also going to go into a few videos of survivors of that ordeal. And then we're going to end this video talking about the active weather modification that is going on there right now in 2 of the counties that declared disaster. And then we're going to ask the question is the weather modification have any relationship with the history of flooding of the Guadalupe River? And Mitch Vexler, before I begin, and this was an extremely difficult video to make, good morning, sir. How are you today?
Like you said, this is tough. You know, when you hear a child screaming for its life, that'll get your attention. So our goal here today isn't to pick on any source of a problem, but it is to get people's attention and at the end make them perfectly aware that certain things should not have happened and what people can do to possibly avoid these types of problems. And these types of problems, make no mistake, it's not just Texas. It has happened in North Carolina. It has happened in Las Vegas. These flash floods occur. Flash floods have occurred in downtown Dallas. These things happen. But the question is, as a society, what can be done to make people situationally aware to get out of harm's way before that issue will happen? Flash floods do happen. Sewers back up. Water systems can't handle it. Our goal here is to make people aware these are the possibilities and what can be done ideally to help avoid it.
Yes, and let's not forget that China actually just recently had a, if I'm not mistaken, a historical flood happen in their country. We've been having flooding in New Mexico, Roswell. We've been having flooding happen all over the place. And I have a new theory on possibly why that might be. But let's start with the stats and let's talk about what happened. The flood happened about 4 hours northwest-ish of Houston, Texas, in an area called Hunt, Texas. And along Hunt, Texas, and along this whole area on your screen is the Guadalupe River. Flash flood emergencies were issued in 5 counties in West Texas, including northwestern Bandera County, northeastern Tom Green County, east central Kerr County, west central Kendall County, where between 5 to 11 inches fell. However, disaster declarations was also extended to include Bexar County, Burnett County, Caldwell, Guadalupe, Travis, and Williamson counties. The water went up in the Guadalupe River 26 feet in a period of 2 hours. Approximately 850 people rescued, 50 fatalities, and over 20 people missing, most of them children, so far. Let's take a listen to the sheriff.
Starting tomorrow, we're going to do 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. tomorrow for y'all. We're doing the best we can to get you as much information as fast as we can. As I tell you today, and I expect tomorrow and the next couple of days, information's changing rapidly and quickly. Got a few notes here. We continue to have hundreds of first responders on the ground, water in this search and rescue process. We have a lot of people here. We got a lot of help. We're very fortunate. Here's some new updated numbers for y'all. As of 5:30, we have recovered 43 deceased individuals in Kerr County. Among these who are deceased, we have 28 adults and 15 children. 12 adults pending identification and 5 children are pending identification at this time. Our missing persons call center is open to those reporting missing loved ones. The phone number is 830-258-1111.
As of early Sunday morning when we're recording this, the Texas flood death toll rises to 50 as desperate search continues for over 20 girls from camp. And it's more than just them that's missing. These people are also missing. But what I want to do now, before we go into the missing and the recovery aspects of this, I want you to ask yourself two questions. Number one, is this similar to what happened in Hurricane Helene? And number two, how can you find people in that debris without dogs? Look at this, guys.
Oh my God.
That tree.
The amount of water is absolutely shocking. How much water is here right now.
We're rescuing people right there. They're looking. Oh, Jesus, please.
In there. I look at water.
From what I just saw, it looks very similar to what happened in Hurricane Helene, especially in areas like Irwin, Tennessee, where this massive, giant body of water just obliterated everything in its path in an unimaginable amount of water. So when you were watching that footage, did you get any feelings or any sense that what happened is very similar to the devastation that happened in eastern Tennessee in regard to Hurricane Helene? Is this similar?
Water, a little bit of water can literally move a giant boulder. So the answer to Travis's question is that mathematically, these things can actually be quantified in terms of the rate of speed that the water was moving through a given area, how much water jumped its banks, when it jumped its banks. These are all things that can be quantified. But if you can imagine in North Carolina, you've got huge mountains on either side, water, rain, hits the mountain, slams into the valley, and all of a sudden that water in the valley just comes up at a huge rate of speed. So water literally will climb up. And here in Texas, you have rains, which is quite shocking, but I've seen it, where the rain coming off the ground literally climbs up 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. So it's literally like somebody turning on a fire hose. Well, up in North Texas, we don't have the mountains, but nonetheless, the rain climbs dramatically. And if the earth cannot absorb the water, then that water's got to go somewhere. And then it starts going into the ditches, and then the ditches overflow. Then it goes to the lakes. Well, on its way to the lake, those ditches start to erode, and next thing you know, you have mudslides. And that is notorious. That description is exactly what happens in Vegas. The land in Vegas is part caliche, which is clay, and the clay does not absorb water. Anything that hits it just bounces off. So again, Vegas has the mountains on either side, rain hits it, Vegas floods. And that happens once every couple of years. So these things happen, and it is mathematically quantifiable. The problem is the awareness, and we'll get to that shortly.
Yeah, we'll move into that part now, guys. We're going to talk about situational awareness. I want to pull up the weather reports, and I want to go basically minute by minute, play by play to see if these people actually got enough warning to evacuate. But let me start by showing you where Camp Mystic is located. Camp Mystic is located in Hunt, Texas. It's this location that you guys can see right here. Now, this camp is actually a well-known camp. A lot of politicians send their children here. There's actually a politician that had his children at this camp. They were saved, but this is it right here. The river right here on the right is the Guadalupe River. As of right now, from Camp Mystic alone, these are 20 of the angels that are currently missing, where rescue workers are frantically searching. In addition to these 20 children, 7 additional adults from Camp Mystic are also missing. I think it's really important to ask the question, what happened and how much time do they have even to evacuate? Because if any camp is located along a river, there should be a procedure in place if there's a flood warning. But the first flood watch, okay, so the first flood watch happened July 3rd at 2:35 p.m. So this is the first indication that you guys see right here that there is a potential disaster heading this way. But if you guys look on the right here, it's not too much in Kerrville. It's kind of southwest of Kerrville. You can kind of see that right here. Now, as time goes on, another watch is issued at 8:54 p.m. the night prior, July 3rd. And as you guys can see here, the area is much larger. It doubled to triple the flood watch area. It's now consumed Kerrville as well as areas in San Antonio. The first flash flood warning, and this is really, really important to understand. The first warning where it's saying move immediately, see this here, move immediately to higher ground, avoid walking or driving through floodwaters, okay? This was in Medina. The first flood warning came at 11:42 p.m., so in the middle of the night, July 3rd. As time goes on, the first dangerous warning comes out at 12:27 a.m. July 4th. So again, in the middle of the night, but this is saying here, flash flood likely overnight with significant impacts possible. And this is from National Weather Service. We get an additional flash flood warning right here at 1:14 a.m. in Hunt City. So my thinking so far looking at this, because this happened in the middle of the night, is someone's cell phone should have been going off. So when this is issued at 1:14 a.m., all of the counselors' cell phone, as long as they had reception, should have gone off. Another flash flood was issued again in Medina at 1:54 a.m. Again, in the middle of the night. I understand probably everyone is sleeping. An additional flood watch was issued at 2:37 a.m. Now we get an additional very dangerous warning. You guys can see here, a very dangerous flash flooding event is ongoing across central Kerr County into northwest Bandera County. Now this came out at 3:06 a.m. on July 4th. Remember, the first warning was around midnight. We get another flash flood warning right here at 3:35 a.m. Again, people's phones should be going off. At 4:23 a.m., another dangerous warning is issued. A swath of 5 to 10 inches of rainfall has been estimated the last 3 to 6 hours across south central Kerr County. This is a particularly dangerous situation, and a flash flood emergency is in effect. So this is our first flash flood emergency warning. That warning, as far as I can tell, the emergency warning happened at 4:23 a.m. when it was already too late. And I say that because at 5:08 a.m., they came out with this. The Guadalupe River at Hunt continues to rise sharply and has reached the second highest height on record, higher than the 1987 flood. So if the first warning was at midnight, 4 hours later, Guadalupe River peaks, which means they had about 4 hours to evacuate. Before I talk to Mitch about situational awareness, I want to first listen to some stories of survival. You guys are about to listen to some children that were at church camp that actually escaped the floodwaters. Listen to what this young child has to say and look at the courage on his face.
My name is Ruffin Boyette. I'm one of the campers from Camp Lahana, one of the camps that flooded. And I had a firsthand view of the flood, and so the cabins were flooding, and the walls were like they broke down, and all of the campers in those cabins had to go up on the rafters, and they had to wait there until they could swim out. And my brother here, he had to swim out of his cabin.
Really? Here, do you want to here? Can I mic you up some? Here you go. One moment. Okay. And so you had to swim out of your cabin?
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
So the flood started getting bigger, and it was going up to, we have bunk beds in our cabins, and it was going up to the top bunk, and we had one choice, and we had to swim out of our cabins.
What time was it? Was this
It was
dark?
like we woke up at
Yeah,
2,
we had to
and-
wake up at like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
What'd you wake up to? Say people telling you to wake up?
I didn't
Yeah,
fall
people were
asleep.
screaming.
I didn't fall asleep. Like, I couldn't sleep because of the lightning.
Yeah, people were screaming that there was a flood. There was a lot of water on the floor.
Yeah, I was the first one awake, and basically one of the other kids in my cabin, he woke up the counselor, and the counselor was like, "What?" And then all the other campers woke up.
Yeah.
So that what? And they're like, "Oh my God, we're flooding!"
Yeah, and some cabins like flooded away,
So what did
but
you
nobody died.
No one died.
I've been looking in the brush piles for Mary Barrett, who's 7 years old, and for Cece and for Clay Meadows, 26. Cece's 7, and another girl that's 8. We had a lot of people that have helped out. Just landowners have just come down and they've swept with us. We have chainsaw crews that just grew out of nowhere that just showed up, and we cleared roads, and the whole community has just showed up. People from the river, people coming in, military, the police, the locals, and everybody's working together. They're asking us, we're like, "Hey, we have a chainsaw." They're like, "Yeah, use it. We need it here." There's no egos. It's just people wanting to find people. So it is in the hands of God right now. We have a bunch of people that are out and see the force that the river did. I mean, to do that, it's like it's like hitting it with a bulldozer. So anybody that's surviving, it's an act of God, and that's where we need to follow, is praying that God will save.
Let's talk about situational awareness. I consider you someone that takes preparation for many, many situations, as I do. I prepare, right? Their first warning was issued roughly, let's just say 14 hours, okay, before the Guadalupe River hit. It peaked. So you have a 14-hour watch. So you have your 2:30 p.m. watch for a flood, just watch for a flood, 2:30 p.m. July 3rd. You have your first warning. Okay, some would say a watch is a warning, but you have your first official warning issued in the middle of the night at 11:40 p.m. 4 hours later, Guadalupe River hits the peak. What type of situational awareness can you articulate that may have made a difference in the situation?
Special forces are taught situational awareness. And in this particular case, beacons, SOS devices, even iPhone, most people don't even know that iPhone is capable of it, but iPhone is capable of an SOS. Garmin InReach, AM radios to find out what's going on when you've got a storm coming. If your power goes down, those AM radios, you can buy them for 10 or 12 bucks, but they're worth their weight in gold, because if you don't have communications, that's one fast way to get it. You can even crank them up so they don't run on a battery. Weather sirens. Did the sirens go off? Apparently, it doesn't seem like it did, but that story will come out shortly. Over the years, I was developing in Capel, Texas one time, and a bulldozer struck a rattlesnake den. And I realized there happened to be a cop standing next to me watching this at the same time. And we were both horrified because neither one of us knew what to do. And I didn't know that a bulldozer could move in those directions, but basically the blades of the dozer were going up and down, and snake parts were flying all over the place. So when I got back to my car, I thought about it, and I realized I know nothing about this. I'm from Canada. What in the world do I know about a rattlesnake? So that realization started me going down the path of being prepared, because what if an employee gets into trouble? What are you going to do? What if a cop isn't there? What if a nurse isn't there? So over the years, I started putting together go bags. My car has a go bag, and it's got battery jumpers, cables, it's got all sorts of stuff in it. That's just for the car. What I came up with was, because it can be a little daunting, and FEMA actually has a pretty decent list of things that you should have around you as a go bag or home kit. The point being that even your children should be taught about this. right? So if your child had, in this particular case, an iPhone with an SOS signal in it and was in their pocket, finding those children in such an emergency would have been that much faster. So the go bags that I have come up with were 1 hour, a 4 hour, a day go bag, and a week go bag. And each one of them has medical gear in it. Each one of them has a signal device in it. I even have straws for drinking water if necessary. You have to realize that one of those camps, the report is that it had 750 children in it. The problem here is this could have been that much worse. And what precautions were taken? Well, those precautions may or may not have been taken. And like I said, we're not here to beat up on anybody. The idea here is if you know what situational awareness is, and you are at least prepared with medical, with SOS devices, you know where your children are, and you know that your children are trained how to use these devices, including some medical, then that helps take the vast majority of the risk out of the equation. And part of the problem is that people assume, well, the counselors will look after this, or the camp will look after this, or the police will look after this. Those assumptions are patently false. They are foolish, and they have been proven lethal. And it's not just here in Texas. They have been proven lethal. North Carolina, Las Vegas. People lose their lives in the underpasses in Dallas. When the floods come, they have an underpass. In a minute, that underpass can fill up with water. And they think to themselves, oh, I can make it to the other side. I'll just drive through it. Yeah, no, you can't. And you're dead. So it really is about situational awareness for the parents, for the children, and for anybody, because these floods are no joke. This stuff is lethal, it's dangerous, and it happens in a matter of minutes. Know what you have in terms of the equipment and the education, and know how to use it.
Mitch, I can tell you my 2 daughters are the same age as those missing children, and they got back 3 weeks ago from church camp. So this hit me hard. In fact, I wasn't going to go out there. As you know, I tore all the muscles in my Achilles. I have a bone sticking out of my heel. But I was just sitting there, just praying about this. I just kept thinking about those little girls. And I'm like, I can't. We talk about community. I've been training for this. We have a search and rescue team. We got to deploy. This is devastation. And when we sent my child to camp, they told us we can't contact her. So I can only imagine what's going on in the minds of these parents. And then I'm also wondering, I can't imagine the answer would be no, but did they have reception? Because I can't imagine children waking up their counselors to this. I can't imagine a situation to where if I was in this situation, I would allow that to happen. I just don't understand this. Now, I know people don't take these warnings seriously. Hindsight's 2020, but that's why situational awareness is so important. Now I'm going to go into something else. And this next segment of this video, you guys, to me, when I started researching this, it was absolutely shocking. And what I'm going to do now is I want to show you guys the active weather modification rain enhancement programs that are happening in that area. Then I'm going to pull up the timelines of flooding in the Guadalupe River. And then I'm going to ask you guys whether or not you guys think it's this flooding is just a coincidence and that potentially has nothing to do with weather modification. But let's start here. Weather modification and rain enhancement programs are very real and have been happening for a very long time. This is the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation for Weather Modification. And I want you guys to know that I've already gone through all of this information. I have taken notes with an emphasis on the dates. You guys can see dates here, 1998, 2002, about 50 years, 40 different counties. It started in 1987. But I also want to highlight this. It's not just one program. Currently, they have at least 5 different, it's a free-for-all, it's crazy. They have 5 different water enhancement projects. Here's the map of rain enrichment projects in Texas. And I want to really focus on this green area right here, because this green area, let me zoom in here, okay, is STWMA, again, South Texas Weather Modification Association. And I also want to point out, here's the counties that they're in. This county, Bandera and Bexar, have issued emergency disaster declarations. So I will say that there is active rain enhancement programs going on in the counties, actively going on in the counties that were devastated. They also go on to say that the effects can be far-reaching, as far as 100 miles, which would make sense because look at the neighboring counties right here. Kerr and Kendall border Bandera and Bexar. So again, you guys, there is no question on whether or not there is rain enhancement projects and whether or not they're active in that area, because that answer is yes. In fact, here's the company right here. It says Rainmaker Technology Corporation. This is the company, and these are the people that were actively doing weather modification in those counties. This is very, very real. The next question that I asked is this just a one-off situation, or is there any correlation to historical flooding of the Guadalupe River? I went all the way back to 1987. And what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to read the floods that happened, and then I'm going to tell you if I found any programs of weather modification that were happening during that period of time. But the Guadalupe River, it didn't really flood that often until around 1987. Now, in 1987, this event was considered the deadliest weather event in the Guadalupe River's history until 2 days ago. Now, what happened here is a bus and van attempting to evacuate a Baptist youth camp were engulfed by a surge of water that led to the death of 10 teenagers. So again, 1987, youth camp for church, children swept away. That has already happened in 1987. When I went into the weather modification reports, I'm going to read this for you guys. Using federal funds to assess the long-running rain enrichment program of the CRMWD in Big Spring area, this program through CRMWD started during 1987. The cloud seeding was performed by a company called TNRCC, which again, they performed cloud seeding experiments starting in 1987. Maybe it's a coincidence. October of 1998, the first flood broke previous records throughout the Guadalupe River Basin, with the river experiencing flash flood conditions. Another weather modification sponsor materialized in 1998. When 3 counties along the Rio Grande formed the Texas Border Weather Modification Association. That organization has been seeding clouds since the summer of 1998 from a base of operation in Del Rio. Early July of 2002, Kerrville, again, see, same area, recorded 19 inches of rain, making it the city's wettest month since August of 1978. This resulted in 12 fatalities and approximately $1 billion in damages, affecting 48,000 homes. Now, a couple things I want to notate as far as weather modification. I find it interesting that a weather modification program called SORA, again, SORA, ended their program because they were cloud seeding in 2002. They ended their program in August, 1 month after those devastating floods. But that's not all. Another group of counties farther south formed the Southwest Texas Rain Enhancement Association in 1999. In 2002, they switched their methods of cloud seeding, with 4 of the counties. June 10th, 2010. This event caused damage in 8 homes and affected the garage areas of 15 to 20 other homes. Now in 2010, the South Texas Weather Modification Association began the cloud seeding season on April 25th, 2010. Next flash flood, May 12th, 2020. You guys can see here, this flash flood caused about 8 feet of river rising, $1 billion in damage. Cloud seeding projects were thriving across large areas of the Northwest, West, and South Texas, with 7 active projects covering 31 regions. So there were 7 active programs during that flood. Now the next flood is here, October 14th, 2021. In 2021, the cloud seeding season in South Texas began slightly later than usual on April 25th and concluded later than typical, with 2 missions ending in November. So again, more active cloud seeding. Here's the last flood, July 4th, 2025. And I do want to point out once again that STWMA started its first cloud seeding project this year on May 1st of 2025. And the last one that they reported, now they could have done it in July, they could have done July 4th, 3rd, 4th, I don't know. But the last one they indicated doing was May 8th of 2025. And I'm going to read to you guys the report of how they're doing this cloud seeding. The most recent report operation involved seeding over Reeves County, where 19 glaciogenetic flares and 2 hydroscopic flares were burned within 3 clouds. This marked the first day of seeding in May and the 9th day of seeding for the season. I want to watch one video that a man made of blue rain, probably because of the chemicals that they're spraying in the clouds.
Hey, we're camping in this beautiful state park in Texas, and it's been raining, and the water that's coming out of the sky is blue. And it's not this tarp, because it's happening on this tarp too. Look at that. This is crazy.
There's no question that there's active rain enhancement programs going on. 2 counties have declared a disaster where there is active cloud seeding going on. I know we can't directly say that a plane flew and something flooded because we just don't have their schedule. But when I looked at that, to me, it was absolutely shocking because this has been in our face for 30 years and still people are yelling about conspiracy theories. Cloud seeding, flooding, cloud seeding, flooding. And here's the interesting thing. It's not supposed to flood there. That's why they're doing cloud seeding there. They're trying to handle and help with the droughts. So Mitch, in your opinion, do you think that there is a direct correlation with these weather enhancement programs and flooding?
The problem is that it's not proven, right? The statistics just aren't there. So I want to take a side angle here. GMOs are genetically modified organisms in food. And I call it government modified organization. So just because somebody can do something, like you can modify food away from nature and turn it into something else, doesn't mean you should. Just because this problem was initially started way back in the late 1940s, when the theory of cloud seeding started to rise up through the research labs, doesn't mean you should. There's a cost-benefit analysis, and I did the research on what does it cost to seed a cloud. Well, it's not just a cloud. So the way that they have it broken down is they say, well, the cost of seeding can be up to $425 per acre foot. Well, that means 1 acre times 1 foot tall would cost $427 in theory. Now, that number's been floated out there multiple times. That statement is out there multiple times. I am highly suspect of that statement, because if you go back to the late 1940s and say, look at the universities, look at the research labs, look at the flights, how many flights have occurred? They're burning fuel at a gallon a minute for these flights on average. Look at the pilots. Look at the training necessary to handle the silver iodide. When you start adding all this up, you've got to wonder, why is it that nobody really talks about the true cost-benefit analysis? Again, just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should. There's better solutions. There's 2.6 roughly billion pounds per year of food that goes from a kitchen into the dump across the United States. That's roughly 325 pounds of what would be tillable food to go into the earth. Well, if you make earth more fertile, then you make that earth more able to absorb water and absorb it fairly quickly. On a house level, people can do that in their own house. If you've got a 12,000 square foot piece of land, you've got some gardens, you can till in your tomatoes, your bananas, whatever it happens to be. And every year it gets bigger and bigger. Your earth becomes more fertile. You're able to absorb more water. In urban areas, they now have what's called a food desert, because in poor areas, they don't have the ability to generate their own food. Well, if you took an urban area and said, okay, fine, we're going to turn this land back into farmland, i.e. Detroit, where things are, huge chunks of land are now sitting urban, but there's nothing on them. Well, if you turn that back into farmland, that land is now able to absorb. If you have a farm, in farming, they actually can now rotate not only the cattle, but they can rotate the crops. Then through the middle of the farm, they have ponds, but the ponds are linked up. They're called interlinked ponds all the way throughout the farm. Well, what happens is that's now taken a piece of land that could be fairly arid. And because of the ponds, because of the links, all that water around the pond and all the water around the links is creating the ability for the earth to start growing more green crops. These things are all things that can be done, that are all occur in nature. They are all healthy, no chemicals, no silver iodide, and it gets the job done. Its biggest problem is, unfortunately, many of those things touch real estate tax. Get rid of the tax, take things back to the way nature had designed, and every little bit helps. It's not that the seeding is bad, it's not that it's good. Problem is, nobody knows the truth.
I do believe that these weather enhancement projects have some impact on flooding. I don't see how it couldn't. Personally, when you go messing with the weather, it's just not good. I think as a result of how the lack of transparency and the lack of like, hey, we're going to do some cloud seeding. Maybe you should take these warnings seriously. Like if we're going to do a cloud seeding program, then watch out for that flood water. Something needs to be done with the communication, with the transparency. I mean, this is an absolute abomination. And so, Mitch, I really appreciate you breaking down the situation, giving us your perspective. I'm going to end us out of here by talking about how important community is, guys. The community is vital. Now, so far, it looks like there has been a positive response. There's been lots of National Guard, lots of people, dog handlers, search and rescue, but they had that same initial response during Hurricane Helene. And so I'm questioning what's going to happen in a couple of days from now. And that's why, you guys, again, I'm always preaching about community. There's no way that I'm going to sit this one out. And so again, I have Lewis, I have Melody Wright, I have a Chainsaw Master, we have dogs coming, we have our entire search and rescue team coming. And if you guys can help us participate in this operation, I have seeded their deployment with my own tithe. And guys, I don't have a lot of money. So if you can participate, if you can participate physically, reach out to Lewis. His link is going to be in this description. If you guys can contribute financially to our activities on the ground in that area, please, you guys, do it. I don't want to go broke again, but I am willing to. Now, other than that, guys, I'm going to get out of here. Absolute devastation. Say a prayer for all those families. Again, if you guys are going to go in there, if you're going to go help, look, I would like to say this. A couple things. Number one is your safety, right? Situational awareness. Even though it's not raining right at this very second, it is later today, though. You got to be aware of your situation, what you're standing on. You can crash through a debris pile. You can go straight to the bottom of it and destroy yourself. And I'm going to tell you this right now. In my opinion, at least, the most important thing that is needed in that area are dogs. And so that's exactly what we are bringing. Mitch Vexler, again, I thank you, sir. I'm going to get everyone out of here, you guys. If you're out there, investing in your lives, investing in yourselves, investing in your communities. You guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.